today now we'll study about the heart, which is the major part, major structure in the circulatory system. The heart is a muscular pump-like structure which receives blood from different parts of the body and again pumps it to the different parts. So it is a muscular pump-like structure. So it is the muscular pump-like structure. Muscular pump-like structure, we have written here pump, that is receiving and pumping the blood to different parts of the body. Now, the heart in human being is of the size of about 12 centimeter in length and 9 centimeter in width, average dimension. It is of the size of a closed fist in adult human being. Now, that is its size, its average size is 12 centimeter in length, that is height, and 9 centimeter in width. That is a closed fist in adult human being. Now, next point. In this case, we see about the heart, that is, it is placed centrally in between the two lungs, above the diaphragm, that is in thoracic cavity. It is protected by the rib cage. Now, the heart is placed centrally, like you see. Suppose you draw diagram of this one. This is the diaphragm, and now on this side here is the lungs. Here the lungs, left lung is bilobed, and the heart is located like this on this side. So it is located centrally, but it is felt on the left side. The reason is that the lower pointed tapering end of the heart is tilted on the left side, that is the ventricle side, which produces powerful heartbeat. Hence, the heart sounds are felt on the left side. So, clearly, a student, we see that is it is placed between two lungs above diaphragm and protected by rib cage. Now, a student, just we have seen that it is placed centrally. It is placed centrally, but its lower end is tilted towards left side, which produces powerful heartbeat. Hence felt on the left side. So this is about its location, that is the heart is located centrally in between the two lungs, but since its lower pointed end is tilted towards the left side, which produces powerful heartbeat, hence the heart sounds are felt on the left side, or we say that the heart is placed on the left side in thoracic cavity. Now, students, if we study about its structure, then it is made up of it is made up of cardiac muscles. Cardiac muscles. In muscle topic, that is in tissue, in class 9th, we have studied the type of muscles. Cardiac muscle, which is present in the wall of the heart, and what is its significance? Main characteristic, that is, it is structurally striated muscles, that is cylindrical, having dark and light bands, multinucleated cells, and one major characteristic, that is, it is made up of cardiac muscles which is branched muscle. Now we have studied that it is a structurally striated muscle but functionally unstriated, that is involuntary, means it works on its own without interference from the brain. So now cardiac muscle, we have also studied that this muscle never take part in anaerobic respiration. So it does not get tired and it works throughout the life. In the heart wall, its impulse is itself generated, which we will study in later part. So the composition is of cardiac muscle. Now you see, it is covered by double walled membranous covering that is called pericardium. Pericardium, also we can say pericardial membrane. And in between the pericardium and the heart, the fluid is filled, that is called pericardial fluid. Wherever an organ has to show some movement, like the heart is pumping, contracting and relaxing, so in order to provide lubrication, to reduce friction, now there is a fluid, that is pericardial fluid. Pericardial fluid present between pericardium and the heart wall. Reduces friction and also acts as the mechanical shock absorber. For the heart, means it also prevents the heart from the external injury, external jerk, by that is reducing the effect of jerk on its wall. So this was about the composition of the heart. Now student, we are going to study about the structure, that is the structure of the heart. Now you will study in this part about the chambers of the heart, the valves in it, the blood vessels related to it. So first of all, we draw a simplified diagram. Just the diagram of the heart is not required to be drawn, but for the simplicity we draw diagram like this. We draw diagram here. In ICSC, the question is asked about related to location and function. So if you label them properly, you will be able to answer the questions easily. Like you see, first of all, here you see, in this part there are 4 chambers. That is, here the right auricle or right atrium. On this side there is left auricle or left atrium. This is right ventricle and this is left ventricle. So these are the four chambers first of all. Then you see here, that is this major blood vessel is called vena cava. Vena cava. Now it is composed of two branches opening together, that is superior vena cava and the inferior vena cava. Also we say that is anterior vena cava and posterior vena cava. Now on this side further we see that is there are four veins, two from each of the lungs bringing the oxygenated blood, that is called pulmonary artery, pulmonary vein. Pulmonary vein. In this part you see that is from here the blood is carried to this part for carrying to the lungs, that is called pulmonary artery. Pulmonary artery. And from left ventricle the blood goes in this to different parts of the body or tissues, that is called aorta. Aorta. Now here you see that is when the right auricle contracts, it sends blood to the right ventricle, and here is the valve to regulate the flow of blood, here is called tricuspid valve. Similarly, on the left side there is a valve called bicuspid or mitral valve. Mitral valve. So this is the basic diagram. Now we will study some more structures related to it as the topic proceeds. So now start with the structure of the heart. We see here, we can study it under different heads. Like the first of all, chambers of heart. Chambers of heart. Now student, in mammals, the heart is completely divided into four chambers. In lower vertebrates, like in pisces, that is a fish, the heart is two-chambered, that is one auricle and one ventricle. So the blood flows in one direction only. In amphibians, like frog, the heart is having two chambers, that is the two auricles and one ventricle. So from both the auricles the blood is collected from different parts of the body and pumped into the ventricle, from where the mixed blood is sent to different parts of the body or tissues. So that is mixed circulation. In reptiles, there are incompletely four chambered. Here is the partial division. And again, now in birds and mammals, the heart is four chambered. So we have four chambers. Now the heart chambers of the heart. Now first of all, we write here atria. Atria, singular. Singular is atrium, or auricles. Auricles, that is atria or auricles. Now in again, that is it is the upper chambers. Upper chambers of the heart. Again you have seen that is it has two parts, that is first of all it is right atrium. If you have to write singular, you will write atrium or auricle. Right auricle. Now you see here that is it receives deoxygenated blood from different parts of the body. Different parts of body and pumps it pumps it to the right ventricle, to the right ventricle. So this is the right auricle. Now in simple term we say that upper chambers of the heart which receive blood from outside. So the right auricle receives blood from different parts of the body, that is from tissues through vena cava, and again sends it to the right ventricle. The second part is the left ventricle, left auricle or atrium or auricle. Now it receives oxygenated blood from lungs and pumps it to the left ventricle. So we see here, student, that is the left auricle receives oxygenated blood from the two lungs through pulmonary vein and sends it to the left ventricle, from where it will be again passed into the different parts of the body or tissues. Now the next part is that is in chambers of the heart is the ventricle. That is second part, ventricles. The lower chambers of the heart which pumps blood outside the heart. So just we have seen that is the auricles were receiving the blood from outside and the ventricles are pumping the blood to outside the body. Now outside the heart, outside the body, not outside the heart. In this part, first of all, it is right ventricle. Now we have seen here that is the right auricle, after collecting deoxygenated blood from different parts of the body, pumps it to the right ventricle, and when it will contract, the blood is sent through the pulmonary artery to the lungs for oxygenation. So right ventricle pumps blood to the lungs for oxygenation. So the blood is sent to the lungs. And the second part, that is the left ventricle, pumps blood to the tissues through the major artery, that is called aorta. This is the aorta. So the blood, oxygenated blood, is pumped outside the heart, and from here the branching takes place and oxygenated blood is sent to the different parts of the body. Clear, student? So these were the chambers. Now we see, a student, here that is in one circulation the blood is pumped twice. So we can say here that is the heart is a double pump. The heart is the double pump. Now what is the reason behind it? We see here that is, first of all, the auricles receive blood from different parts of the body and pumps it to the ventricles for pumping outside, and then the ventricle, after filling, contracts to pump the blood to different parts of the body. So the chambers of the heart pump twice the blood to from one part of body to the another part. Clear, student? So it is called double pump. Now one more thing, student, about the walls of the heart, chambers of the heart. Here the question is asked, that is, the wall of ventricles is thicker than that of auricles. Now what is the answer behind it, reason behind it? The auricles have to pump the blood only into the ventricle under the gravity, so they require less muscular force. But the ventricles have to pump the blood against gravity and over longer distance, that is up to the head and up to the toe. So ventricles require more muscular force and hence the wall of ventricle is thicker. But even if you compare the two chambers of the ventricle, then you can further write the wall of left ventricle is thicker than right ventricle. Now again there is reason behind it. The right ventricle has to pump the blood only up to the lungs, that is over short distance, so it requires less force. The left ventricle has to pump the blood throughout the body over longer distance, that is up to the head and up to the toe. Hence left ventricle require greater force and hence it has more thicker wall than right ventricles. Clear, student? So this was about the chambers of the heart. Students, the next topic which we have to study in the structure of heart is the valves in the heart. Second part is the valves in the heart. Now there are two sets of valve in the heart. One is in between the auricle and the ventricle. Now so it is, that is the first part we write here, that is atrioventricular valve. Now as the name suggests, atrios, we can also write auriculoventricular valve, that is between auricle and ventricle. Now these structures will be studied in 2 points mainly. One, its location, and the other is its function. And if you practice, that is whenever you have to study the structure of any human body or organ, then you must study it by drawing a rough diagram, labeling them. Then you will be able to understand the location and function parts. Like you see, atrioventricular, this first part is tricuspid valve. Tricuspid valve. As the name suggests, tri means three. That is, here there are three cusp-like structures. Now there is difference between cup and cusp. Cup is in this part, this form, and cusps are in inverted form. So there are three cusp-like structure which are at the opening between right auricle and right ventricle. So we write here as location, that is at right auriculo, or if we have used the term atrio, so we write atrioventricular aperture. In simple term, we can see here, we can say that it is present at the opening between right auricle and right ventricles. So it has three inverted, that is the leaf-like structure, flap-like structure, that is called cusp. So it has three cusp-like structure, and when the ventricle contracts, then the blood fills in the cusps, it gets inflated, and then the flaps come closer, and then it will be closed. So when ventricle contract, this will be closed. So what is the function here? That is, it prevents backflow of blood into right atrium when right ventricle contracts. In this way, contracts. You see here, that is, if we use the term valve, at every place wherever there is valve, its main function is to maintain unidirectional flow. So this valve will allow blood to pass from right auricle to right ventricle. But when the ventricle will contract, the valve will be closed, and then there is a single passage, that is, the blood will pass through the pulmonary artery to the lungs. Clear, student? On the similar basis, we have another valve, that is bicuspid, also known as mitral valve. And again, it is very simple, it is very clear, that is bicuspid. It has two cusp-like structure, and it will be present. Again, you can, if you have drawn the diagram, now the location is very simple and easier to learn. That is at left atrioventricular aperture, and the function is also similar, that is, it prevents backflow of blood into the left atrium when left ventricle contracts. So you see here, that is, this is the function, location and function of tricuspid and bicuspid valves, that is atrioventricular valve. Now there is another type of valve here, present here, that is, now you see, that is here, that is semilunar valves. Now semilunar, like you see, that is, suppose there is a vessel, and if it is like this, then this is called semilunar. So this is present at the opening of these blood vessels, like here. Here is a valve. Since it is present at the opening of pulmonary artery, so it is called pulmonary semilunar valve, and one is there on the opening of aorta, that is called aortic semilunar valve. And on this side, here is pulmonary semilunar valve. So if we will study its location, the first of all, it is pulmonary semilunar valve. Now it is at the opening of pulmonary artery in right ventricle. So this is its location, and what is its function? Now you see, that is, when the right ventricle has contracted, it sends blood, it pumps blood into the pulmonary artery against gravity. But when it is start to relax, the pressure is decreased, then the blood tends to fall down, come back. At that time, this semilunar valve, due to the pressure of the blood, gets closed and it will prevent backflow. So it prevents backflow of blood into right ventricle when it relaxes. So this is the pulmonary semilunar valve. Now on the similar basis, here there is aortic semilunar valve. Now you can see here location and function easily, that is at the opening of aorta in left ventricle. And what will be the function? Again similar to that, it prevents backflow of blood into the left ventricle when it relaxes. So we have studied 4 types of valves on the basis of their location and function. Clear, students? Now in the next part of this topic, that is the structure of heart, we are studying the blood vessels related to heart. Now here, student, again we can study here in 2 parts, 2 headings: the blood vessels entering the heart and blood vessels leaving the heart. So the first part is the blood vessels entering the heart. Now, as we have seen here, that is the first of all, it is vena cava. So the first part is vena cava. This is the major or broadest vein. Now we see here, that is it has 2 parts: superior vena cava, that is now it brings deoxygenated blood from different parts of the body, through superior vena cava, that is from upper part, and inferior vena cava. So in diagram you see here, student, it is the superior vena cava and this is the inferior vena cava. Superior vena cava brings deoxygenated blood from upper extremities, that is head, shoulders, arms and others. And inferior vena cava brings deoxygenated blood from lower extremities of the body. So this is the major vein. Second, pulmonary vein, and actually it is 4 in number, that is 2 from each lungs, and here you see that it brings oxygenated blood. Now this is the exception, student, because the vein carries deoxygenated blood, but it is the pulmonary vein which brings oxygenated blood from lungs. It brings oxygenated blood from lungs to the left atrium, and here it was bringing it to the inferior vena cava to right atrium. Now this was the blood vessels entering the heart. In general we study about it only, but there is one more vein which is not given in the diagram and not studied in general, but there is another vein opening here, that is called, that is coronary sinus or coronary vein. Coronary sinus or vein. It brings deoxygenated blood from heart wall to the right atrium. So there are the three blood vessels entering the heart. Now the next part which we have to study about the blood vessels leaving the heart. Blood vessels leaving the heart. Blood vessels leaving the heart. The first structure, as we have marked here, it is the pulmonary artery. Pulmonary artery. Now it carries deoxygenated blood. Again, this is the exception, because artery generally carry oxygenated blood, but pulmonary artery carries deoxygenated blood to the lungs for oxygenation, to the lungs from right ventricle for the oxygenation. So this is the pulmonary artery, which is an exception. Now the next one is the aorta. The major or broadest artery. There will be the maximum blood pressure in the aorta, because left ventricle first of all contract to pump the blood into the aorta, and the first branch from aorta is the coronary artery that carries oxygenated blood to its own wall. So it carries oxygenated blood to the tissues, or we can say to the different parts of the body. Clear, student? So from aorta branching takes place, and then the blood is supplied to different organs. So this was about the different parts related to the heart. Now in the next part we will study some more structures and terms related to the working or function of the heart. Clear, student? Okay, thank you.